Welcome to another episode of the Digital Nexus podcast. We're here at episode 15. Mark, tell us what we've got on today.
Got a whole lot of stuff in terms of the research that's been going on out there where AI is very much like the human brain.
Ooh, and it is the battle of the search engines. We're doing a bit of comparison between Perplexity, OpenAI, Google, showing you the type of results. Obviously, the election has been a big part of this week, seeing what the impact that has on the tech market and the tech world. All that and more. Check it out.
See you there.
Woke up, tech talk, news flash, AI rolling in future in the dash. Digital dreams, cold and safe. We got the vision, never out of sync. AI, does it to the sky. Digital world, we reaching.
Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas.
Merry Trumpmas.
Merry Trumpmas. It seems that the world is still divided. So is America. But the AI news is still coming through.
I question
50-50.
It wasn't really divided. He was a clean sweep.
It was okay. Clean sweep. If you're counting electoral votes, look at the popular votes, which is like how the world is.
Yeah. Well, but then
55 to 45, 53 to 47, like whatever it was, the popular vote. Like I know that's not how the electoral colleges kind of work. That's more the people, right?
That's true. Okay.
It's
I agree
50-50.
I agree with that.
It's funny how like you don't get. I mean, if you looked at say a dictatorial kind of country where it's like, look, the president got 100% of the votes again. Like that would be very different, right? That's a sweep for me. A weird system. Look up gerrymandering. Look up all that kind of stuff.
It's a very easy system to rig.
But I'm saying Merry Christmas because Starbucks, who are not a sponsor, but if they want to, they can be. Where I got my coffees from downstairs over here at Stone and Chalk. They're already into the Christmas theme. You've got yours, I think, or
they've always got a nice theme. This little cafe.
Okay,
downstairs
well, you got
around the
turnips and carrots and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
good.
Merry Christmas turnip. But dude, it's episode 15. There's a whole lot of stuff going on around the world. You've got the election map on there.
Yeah.
You've been using a bit of Perplexity and stuff. But before we dive into it, the news, views, and rants and all that kind of stuff. What have you been up to this week?
This week's been really interesting. Just continuing on from a lot of the research work I've been doing, been playing a lot around with the likes of the AI tools that I'm mainly diving into. So OpenAI, Perplexity, Claude, and comparing it with how they output a bunch of research and how they create some personas within the research that I gather. So it's been really interesting exploring the different models and how they shape outputs.
Yeah.
In particularly O1, like I've actually been really enjoying how O1 outputs synthesizes a lot of the research that I input to it compared to things like 4.0, compared to how Claude do it there.
It's doing its thinking and stuff?
When it's doing its thinking, it just outputs a little bit more richer, I guess, nuances to the structures I was after when it comes to building out these archetypes and personas.
On the O1 stuff, and sorry to digress there from your recap, but O1 is the one that you see with OpenAI that it's taking 16 seconds to think and plan things first. It's doing its chain of thought, then it does an output. By default, I think most people have, or everyone has 4.0. What I did see, and you know how sometimes ChatGPT gives you two responses and which one you prefer. Usually it stays with the same model, but I saw one when I was using 4.0, the previous model, where one of the options that it gave me of the two to compare had the thinking in there. So it started inserting O1's chain of thought reasoning and thinking.
It might be how it creates two different ideas, two different options of output.
Yeah, put it this way, it was always just the one model. This is a new thing that they're doing. They haven't done this before. So it's not to create the two outputs, but it's more like that they are starting to seep that in as part of 4.0, it seems like. So that was a weird thing. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, but if you just type in from a blank search, and just noticing these little things, I'm sure there's update pages, but if you type in, you know how you type in Google, tell me a funny story about, and then it just auto completes and gives you options of what other people have been searching.
Yep.
It does that now as well.
I haven't noticed that one
yet.
we might see that when we have a play around.
Yeah, we'll have a look and stuff. But what else have you been up to and stuff, man?
Yeah, so with Digital Village has been, we've been rolling out a few new marketing activities, and AI is obviously a big part of how we're managing that. So it's been really interesting seeing how we can automate things between our general campaign work, but then also just because HubSpot released all their Copilot, just trying to explore how Copilot has been sort of interacting in that tool. I would say it's pretty average. doesn't really do much. We like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, wasn't the best, but
Because they are trying to, a lot of CRMs, whether it's Salesforce or HubSpot in that regard, are doing their own agents. Like HubSpot have like a separate, I don't know if it's a brand, it's definitely under HubSpot and stuff, but they're going into like agent workflows and stuff. So really interesting stuff going on there. Anything else?
No, that's mainly it. Like it's been a very active week, just getting into the weeds of things. And creating a lot of rich content off the back of it for the work that we're doing. It's good fun. Like I'm enjoying the week. Has been very productive, very full on,
and so much easier to do productivity stuff. Because of AI, right?
Even more so, just being able to think. Excuse me. Even more so.
AI sneeze.
Even more so, being able to think more about the strategy work than having to worry about the time creating the content, which is obviously in the past where you had to always consider far out. I've got 3 weeks now of like building out this content. I can fast track that process and put so much more effort into the strategy of things, which I find is more rewarding. Like you get a better outcome. So much better outcome. Being more tactful, more targeted, rather than having to worry about the fact that I have to create 3 pages of ads and media and
whatever it is that you're doing, whatever the mundane parts are, you can automate a lot of that or get 30 ideas instead of 1 or 2. So yeah, super interesting kind of stuff.
How about yourself? What's been your world?
A couple of things. Been on other podcasts. Sorry, I've been on other people's podcasts.
I'm out. This is over. I don't want to do this anymore.
Okay. Folks, Chris just walked out. And if you're watching on YouTube, AI Chris is back. No, I've been on another podcast that was filmed last week. It came out this week. It's called PerCapita Australia. And PerCapita, they do some interesting things.
I want to see this up on screen. Pull it
up.
You
know what? You're right.
Pull it up, Mark.
Pull it up, Jamie. So let's have a look. Bring this up on screen.
Hey, there he is.
There you go. Look at that title, the Tech Bro Election. So that was one of the things that was covered.
You couldn't give yourself a cleaner shave for going into that?
Nah. I mean, I'm doing the Movember thing, so I am shaving the sides, keeping the mo.
It looks a lot cleaner than it did in that video.
Oh yeah, I was very ragged and stuff there. It was filmed at 8:30 at night, folks. So or whatever it was, it's late because I did another podcast this week, which won't go out till next week. But anyways, in this one, we talked about AI. This is Kate Bauer, and she does a lot of research into governance and AI. There was also Dan, who is from something called Health Engine. He's into his AI and also blockchain. And Peter Lewis, who is the host that started all of this, I met him when, Chris, you and I, we had some international guests come along and join us from Taiwan and also from Microsoft in the States. And these 2 guests, they basically were covering this concept of plurality. So it's Audrey Chang and Glenn Whale, and they cover the concept of plurality, which is how do you bring collaboration in technology together so that you can do better governance and run governments and stuff. And they're looking at that in Taiwan. Taiwan's very advanced there. Anyway, I spoke to these guys about AI. There was the whole character AI and the unfortunate incident that it was involved in where a teen took his own life after speaking to one of these characters, and it calls into question ethics, how it happened, etc., etc. So we discussed that. We discussed the elections a little bit. We discussed just how does blockchain work and in terms of how it helps the whole AI kind of landscape and stuff. So that was really interesting as well that we covered. And so you can see me here with Dan and then Kate and stuff before. So that was one thing that I did. So definitely check that out. Good to plug other people's work. And then I did something fun that just got released this morning. This is OpenAI and a GPT. Well, actually, it's GPT and how there was research by Max Tegmark and others from MIT looking at how the neurons in AI fires. Before we didn't even know how these things work. They were black boxes. Now there's a bit of mapping. They've been able to figure out how to map the brain of an AI, so to speak, or map the AI, and seeing how the neurons fire, how it ignores certain how it ignores noise, focuses on key words and stuff, and it's very similar to how how the human brain works. So I'll just play this short little clip. Let's have a look. So, GPT. We've been studying how your neural networks work, and you know what's fascinating? So I'm playing a researcher there. I'm playing like the AI there.
In anticipation.
Then I play another researcher here. And anyway, like it's just a bit of fun going
and adapt, solving a wide range.
Going back and forth with the AI and stuff like that, because you know, some of these things just to educate people, it's more fun than just putting out a research paper and saying, hey, read this. Like, it's actually cool to showcase some more, you know, I guess you could say like insights or like a different kind of funny take on it and stuff. And we'll go back to some of the funnier videos. Like, I think I did something a little while ago. You saw that one where it's like WorldCoin. Sam Altman's got his interest in this other kind of project, which is on blockchain, which is recording your eye to prove that you're human. You get your international, global, whatever it is ID, but you give up at what cost your data. So a bit of a joke on that kind of stuff, you know. So sometimes there's funny stuff. This is a bit more educational. You can actually see the research that is there.
I was going to say, can you tell us about the research piece a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I wasn't going to jump to this until later.
We'll get to it later. That's fine.
But there is a video that goes along with it. So the research piece was from Max Tegmark. You can see the actual research here. So I'll just bring that up on screen. So the geometry of concept, sparse autoencoder, feature structure, you know, lovely stuff. If you want to know what that means, autoencoders are ways that we can actually see into the AI. Without autoencoders, it was harder to do that. They were black boxes. Now we get a glimpse. And because of that, and it's covered in this video here by the AI Grid. If you're not subscribed, definitely check them out. I mean, they need the subscribers. He's only got 264,000. Like, I think he really needs the help. So definitely like add that to your list, folks.
That's 264,000.
4,000.
Well, 263,999 more than us.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you to the one viewer that we've got. But you know, interestingly, the things that they've seen there is because we can see into the AI and understand its biases and understand how it works a lot more easily because it's not such a black box. What it does mean is, and take a look at this. This is like some of the mappings from the research and stuff. They found regions. The AI has lobes just like the human brain does for English text, for code and math, for facts and findings, for chat, just general kind of chit chat and stuff and going back and forth. That has a region in the AI brain. So that's kind of crazy. But what it does mean, Chris, is that all this talk about biases and stuff like that, if we know how the AI actually thinks and works and stuff, we can actually work around that. So we can help avoid the biases that might be there because we're using certain models. We can train better. And as these things scale in terms of being able to be much lower cost, they can be on our own devices. We get to that future where, look, put it this way, even if we don't get to AGI where these AI things can think and reason for themselves, because there's a lot of on the fence stuff about reasoning. Even if they don't get to think for themselves, like you always have to feed it ideas for it to be able to think about something new, that's still fine if they're so much more prevalent out there. Because you and I have seen just how, even in the current state, how powerful these things are. I can do so much more than I did this time last year because of AI and from the year before. AGI, you know, the reasoning stuff there, we digress. We can go into that a little bit more in another episode or even later on.
Or watch our last episode. We dived into quite a lot about AGI and its
actually
risks
that's right.
and fear or even benefits.
That's the risk and fear and benefits. But if we even get there, because there's so much research that shows that AI doesn't reason beyond what it's been given. That's a problem. You will never get to AGI if it cannot reason beyond just its training set. Humans, we get new things, we can reason with it, we can think outside the box, we can do more. If AI can't do that yet, the way that LLMs are designed right now, if they can't get beyond that, then that's a problem.
100%. So the current, and this was a big thing we talked about, the current state of AI is not going to get to AGI. If it's going to be AGI, it'd have to be something that is almost a brand new type of AI model that's come out.
Potentially, yeah.
Just like touching on this, I think it's really fascinating where this is leading to. One first ironic state is that AI is also becoming a really big involvement in how we even map human neuron pathways in the brain. So we're using AI to generate those pathways. So we got a neuron, the thing that we're learning about how it has its own neurons and how it's doing its own learnings, training us and giving us the insights into how we train and learn about our own brains, which I think is fascinating. It's a double little
that's exactly
bit of a meta thought process there. But the benefits of this is because we're mapping this out in an AI tool where we're able to dive into, what would be a better word, for lack of a better word, the code of how it processes these things and map this out in a really interesting way, similar to the brain. It actually also allows us to be much more predictive around how our own brains work than we could ever be, because we're able to now see this, this AI tool, this AI model act in a way that is the human mind, and therefore we can then predict to a certain degree, and obviously with huge amounts of assumptions on top of that in its current form, how our own brains or pathways would work in a similar scenario, with a similar context, with a similar impact of whether it's, emotion or, to the extreme of war or something that has, or the environment even.
We can take it to the edges. This is the thing that people... we've spoken about this, whether it's on this show or even like before, that the similarities, we're looking at, we were saying things like, and when I say we, I mean society and the AI space.
Just you and I.
Just you and I. Yeah. We're saying things, no, because this is the opposite, right? People were on average saying these things that, hey, look how similar AI is to us. Look how similar AI is to the human brain and stuff like that. And it's like, hang on a second, flip the script, put the mirror on the other side, and you actually realize how similar we are to the way that this AI has been trained, and we learn about ourselves. And what it does lead to is not just like those edge cases or even insights into, things we haven't thought about, but think about things like synthetic research. If you want to get insights into customers, give the AI the persona of what you think are your customer bases, and you can get insights into that, and that's improving all the time. But also just insights into how people might think about not just research and maybe your product, or how they, they probably were using this kind of stuff for the US elections and stuff, but maybe they didn't get it quite right. Or even if they did have all this research, there was nothing that they could do about it, right? Like they just have to fight the fight that they did in terms of Democrats losing. But I think that there's a lot of insights here, given the corpus of knowledge that it's been trained on. So fascinating stuff.
It's kind of similar to what you did recently, where you were doing a little predictive piece around what would happen if either party won the election, or the impact of X, Y, Z.
So I'll show you that actually just quickly. So this is another video I did. I'm using Psych here, folks. And what's happening is that I actually got the AI to go, okay, so here's Psych coming up with some research. And the music is from Suno, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I put in the prompt saying like, what happens if Donald Trump wins, and we get to like a dystopian kind of future. And you can see here that Psych does its thinking. We had like a thinking kind of model, very similar in some ways to the chain of thought stuff that O1 is coming out with, because it's just how you build it and string it together. We definitely didn't do things the same way that they trained, but you can see here from asking a one question, it builds out all these various notes. I can click a document to see all of it on a page. But to be fair, I did it also for Kamala as well. And so like I did another one where I actually look at what would happen if, even if Kamala got in and there is like a descent into, I say, hellish landscape with Trump supporters and stuff here, rallying against it. So that was interesting, and people are interested in that. They can see on LinkedIn. It's one of my latest posts. I also shared the document. Like, here's the Trump wins scenario. Donald Trump wins. There's going to be economic concerns, key events leading up to the election. But what's the public reaction after? The election aftermath, right? So, like, from a international and Australian perspective.
Did you buy any crypto before?
I already have crypto, bro.
Yeah, but did you buy any beforehand?
Before?
Get the 15% spike from him winning?
I saw it like 9% on the day, then another up to 15%, and like Bitcoin is at like all-time highs, as well as Ethereum. I don't know if Ethereum's all-time highs, but it's up there.
It got a little boost of itself, but yeah.
Definitely got a little boost and stuff. But I already had, I didn't buy any more. Maybe I should have, because that was like an easy win per se. But in any case,
I ended up taking a whole bunch of coins that I just had there sitting for a while, and I pushed it all into Bitcoin. So I got a nice little bump in that just before. As I was seeing him,
everyone, you're winner.
Trump's gonna win. I'm just gonna push it all into Bitcoin.
Trump Sinclair 2028. Anyway, but yeah, it's looking at like trade and investment and how it would disrupt things, what it could affect for Australia. Same thing for Kamala as well. What could happen? Trump supporters revolt. the hellish landscape that we get into, the global fallout, and then, what happens from an Australian perspective. But in reality, I mean, that was just the AI trained up until it was, not looking at the internet or anything, just trained on its own kind of knowledge for the 4.0 model, what it thought. But in reality, I think, something that people are talking about is if tariffs, and sorry to get into politics, folks, and economics, but if the US does go through with a lot of tariffs that they're talking about, taxes on other countries like exports into the US, that could lead to negativity for one of our major trade partners, China. And if there's negativity for them, could that mean fallout downstream for Australian economics? So we will see.
The lack of understanding from a lot of the American people, particularly the Republicans, around what happens if they put tariffs on China is hilarious. Like everyone's like, yes, we've got to put these tariffs on. We've got to do this. We've got to put China in its place. Not understanding the cost implications of all of the stuff that, that they get imported and exported. It's like they think that because they're going to put tariffs or these extra taxes on these foreign or businesses, that's going to, be a big middle finger to them. It's like, cool, yeah, you're going to put some pressure on them, but they're going to pass that money downstream. Yeah. You're going to be the ones that get impacted. Maybe the wealthy people won't really care, but, the middle class and lower, they're going to see a huge rise in cost of stuff that gets imported from overseas.
Yeah, it's usually, and whether it's like Democrats or Republicans or just anyone in any other country that just doesn't understand the supply chain and the connected kind of effects of doing a decision like that, I think that it's definitely not definitely. I think, I think you're right, that the folks that will not be affected. It's the same thing as when, for example, Jeff Bezos, before Bezos, Amazon guy, you know the one. He made a decision to have the Washington Post, the newspaper that he owns, not endorse one of the candidates. And it's the first time they haven't, because usually newspapers do. Because of that, I think they lost 10% of readership. Now, that 10% of readership doesn't affect him at all. He'll still be the billionaire. It's going to affect the business. It's going to affect the people working there. It's going to mean that people may lose jobs because there's just not enough money to go around. Like, is he going to support them? Who knows? Maybe. But typically, the decisions of people that are typically unaffected, whether it's war, whether it's economic war, or anything else, you're absolutely right. So, AI maybe can help with this.
Yep.
With more understanding and knowledge and stuff there, but man, it's a crazy society.
It's funny how people with so much power, with a single word, can bring down a business. Like you saw it with, the Kardashians, even if they could literally, with just saying one thing about a particular beauty product, could crash that entire business.
Yeah, how did Skechers become so popular? Cause
I don't know if
they endorsed it or whatever.
A while back, it was MKPHD. He did a review on.
Was it the car?
The little AI rabbit phone.
Yeah, and Rabbit R1.
Rightfully so, and the whole of YouTube and all these influencers were saying it was such a terrible advice. But the sort of the broader community started to sort of slam him for that review, because he essentially with his not promotion of the tool, pretty much they're blaming that for the sinking of the platform. And everyone's most viewers saw through it with that bullshit, but it is interesting to understand, for someone so popular and has such an influence in that market, literally all he has to say, this is horrible, and boom, that would be it. No sales for that product.
Yeah, it is crazy on the one hand. On the other hand, it would be crazy if there's a good product and someone just
says it's terrible.
Incorrectly says some terrible things about it. But it's hard to argue with when the rest of community supports it. I could see, but on that, I was worried, going down that path that someone could potentially. No, I don't have something for this. Someone could potentially, just going off on that note there, if you've got a good product and there's someone who is in that kind of line of power, MKBHD, Linus Tech Tips, whoever is big in that space, says something negative about it and it tanks what you're doing, and it's not right? I was worried that people would not call that out in the community. But the thing is, MKBHD put out, as popular as he is, put out a product that missed the mark. I don't know if it was an AI product and stuff, and he got called out for it. So it's great to see that people did that. I'm not grateful that he's made a mistake. It's a shame and stuff there, and he's definitely learning a lesson from that. But it shows that people will call stuff out, hopefully,
100%.
even if they're big.
They have to. I mean, look at it. I mean, you can see it even when Apple launched their latest iPhone. Pretty much every.
There's another iPhone?
Every tech reviewer pretty much called them out.
Yeah, they panned it.
You've talked about AI. You've released a product that doesn't have any AI in it. Like, why have you done this? Obviously,
why you do this?
Apple wanted to do it because they wanted to make sure they got they get it right. They don't like to release shithouse products. But in releasing it, they had really bad sales in their initial launch of probably one of their worst sales they've had for a while. If you look back at the previous iPhone models when they launched, and it is because of the tech community slamming them for it. All the listeners were like, okay, well, I don't want it. There's no difference. I don't want my AI thing.
There's lessons there, folks.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're big and you have the market, you still have to continue to act in a good way. Anyway, do you want to jump to something?
Yeah, well, I'm sticking with the election stuff. I thought it was really interesting. You mentioned the whole the impacts of businesses people like Kamala Harris and Trump, or what happens.
And Vice President Musk.
Now we've got Mr. Vice President Musk.
Dance.
Obviously, he let out, which people are still questioning as illegal, that $1 million to the voters, which I think he did announce, and someone did win that money, but don't know if you're supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah, not sure.
This is just an interesting article on TechCrunch, looking at, I guess, what's the impact on his business and his, one of the reasons he was backing Trump in the first place. And so there's a huge, obviously, kind of a huge benefit to a lot of the stories he's been telling recently when it comes to his EVs, when it comes to his the amount of spending that the government has against the whole technology sector when it comes to EVs, cabs, robotics, obviously SpaceX, and all that investment is going to massively change, which is great. I know Biden put in a whole bunch of EV mandates, taxes, road policies, etc. The idea is that Trump is going to be looking to remove those, which will have a huge impact and benefit on, I guess, EVs on the roads within the states. They're accelerating their whole SpaceX missions to Mars, so putting more investment into a government, specifically putting more investment into space exploration, which is kind of contradictory because I think previously Trump's been quite against that.
Against space?
Not against space, but not putting as much investment as previous presidents have. So that's interesting. So I think Musk has had obviously a big influence now on technology and influencing some of Trump's policies. X and AI. So obviously he has a huge influence on Musk owning X and has his company Grok. So more exploration, investment, and considerations into how they support those businesses and AI and growth within both, I guess, the local market and international market. And obviously then Trump is very pro on this whole tariff thing against China, particularly on a technology space, to try and pull that technology growth back into the US. So he has a huge impact on that thinking as well. So a lot of stuff, interesting read. I recommend anyone who's interested in, who wants to know more about the impacts on technology with the Trump administration. It's definitely an interesting read here to see, just from a Tesla's point of view, what's going to happen.
Fantastic. And, Elon, to me, is definitely Lord Business.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys don't know Lego Movie, definitely check that out. Very important.
I feel like Elon has become the sort of the Trump of the technology world. It's like he can say pretty much anything, even if it's a bit special, and somehow still comes out on top.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there's research into that. Like, some people may absolutely hate him, some people absolutely love him. Yet, yeah. And in any case,
he's a
who am I talking about? Trump or Musk? Who knows?
Genius, yeah, exactly.
Definitely not talking about Trump when it comes to mad genius stuff. But not.
Ain't that the truth?
I mean, just compared to Musk and stuff, Musk is yeah. He is the modern day Iron Man, it feels like. What have you got next?
Speaking about largest companies in the world, Nvidia has taken over, has hit an all-time high. So they have just surpassed Apple.
Oh, wow.
Recently. I don't know how long that's going to last. In terms of market cap. Sorry,
wow.
Yeah, in
Amazing.
terms of valuation and market. So they've passed $3.43 trillion. Topping Apple, who's at 3.38. So they are now the most highly valued company in the world.
Jesus.
topping out Microsoft, Amazon, all the big players out there, which I just thought was interesting because like previously there's been a bit of a slump.
Yeah.
And what's been happening in AI, and there was questions around, the the worth of Nvidia's share price, but
Yeah, I remember that.
doesn't seem to be tanking as much as people thought.
That was crazy. Like, oh, we've hit a peak. Like, look how far they've come and stuff, and like it's not that good. And hang on a second.
Hang on, it's going up
give it a
again.
time, folks. Like, it's crazy to bet against, technology.
Exactly
like, it's
right.
a bet against technology. It feels like I think there's one direction that that
two.
AI is likely going to go in, and it's forward. And I think it's definitely not down. Maybe.
No, not anytime soon.
Yeah, it's definitely
Particularly I think with all the policies that are potentially going to be put in place within the Trump administration, it's only going to go up higher now, especially with Elon.
Absolutely.
The
Our
secondary
Lord and
Mr.
Savior,
Elon.
Lord Business, Elon
Lord Business.
Musk.
OpenAI just recently purchased Chat.com, which
Was that a dating site? It sounds like it was.
I don't know. It was owned previously. It says here in the article, again, we're on TechCrunch here. It was owned by
Some dude in the hills.
someone else, and then they've bought it off them for an undisclosed amount.
A buck.
Said here. So, HubSpot co-founder and CTO Dharmesh Shah had previously acquired Chat.com for $15.5 million.
Yeah, I definitely think OpenAI paid a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so
Wow.
I'm thinking they might link that into ChatGPT.com and just like have some kind of redirect. I mean, smart move if that's the case. So that's just it's such a
We
good
should come up
domain
with
name.
something called the chat.
The chat.com, I'm sure that is a thing. So that was an interesting thing, and I just wanted to pull it into the OpenAI and back into elections and what were you using to monitor your elections as I pull this up here?
Good question and stuff. I was watching a whole lot of, let's just say it was like ABC News, going to CNN and seeing Fox. Arturo was with me in the office, and so we were both like watching a little bit at the same time, doing a crap load of work because there's just so much that we got going on. I did go to like Google to see some of the stuff that's going on there. Not so much looking into the history, apart from what I showed you before with Psych, in terms of like using AI to imagine scenarios and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the analysis, it was more just like watching. I didn't really use any AI tools to ask questions like I guess you've got here on screen with Perplexity and stuff.
Yeah.
What did you do?
I was in Perplexity. I was very surprised. I mean, obviously, Perplexity is mimicking as close to possible that it is a RAG model. It is almost a search replacement. But I was in here. I thought, and a lot of articles have come out and said it. I think Perplexity was winning in this space in terms of AI. Or AI platforms, keeping people in this ecosystem. I think they did a great job. I was getting a bit frustrated even with Google's experience, having to click through a few too many things, whereas Perplexity, you just looked up US election, and there was plenty of links here. I can give an example. I'll go back to home.
Sure, go ahead.
And you just type in. So I typed in US election 2024. Gives you lots of insights, key summaries as searching through stuff.
Oh, someone's got pro-search on.
And then boom, here's your answer, and even you can then view the election. So
that is amazing.
And I was able to sit here and watch the whole election as we're turning over. I was in a couple of meetings throughout the day. Always got Perplexity on in the background as I'm doing search and asking it queries about things. I'm like my Google usage is declining rapidly. So I was very impressed with how Perplexity was operating. On the topic of search, though, we have OpenAI, who just released their search model the last couple of weeks, rolling slowly out for many people, but now I think it's out for pretty much everyone. Have you used it much yet?
I have. I was actually just going to do a quick cut, and I think you've got an example as well to show. But
no, I was going to have a play around, but let's bring it up.
Here is an example. Let's go back. Let's take a step back and what you typically would get. Like, I'm not on pro search, folks. This is just normal Perplexity and stuff. I'm not a specialist, Chris. But I asked the question here, what is the fallout of Trump's 2024 election win for Australia? And you get 5 sources or 8 sources that are here. I could choose which ones I want to include in the further search, as you can see. And then you get this like summary that's here. Trade relations, geopolitical considerations, etc. Now, that's interesting because I've done the same search here with ChatGPT, and I see that I get a shorter response. I have used this before, and actually ChatGPT on average for searches giving much longer responses, for me at least. But the most interesting thing I find is that the vast number of sources that it pulls from. So have a look at this. Like, you've got here the citations, folks. So on screen, there's a side panel that comes up when I do my ChatGPT search. You've got sources when you use Perplexity. I saw there 8 on the other one. This one, it gives not only sources, it gives it gives search results. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ish or so. And from that 13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were used as part of the citations to actually give the answer. So it does a whole search and it goes, these are the best ones to use. I think that's how it works. I'm sure there's like documentation and stuff on that, but they at least divide up the space into that way. So here's one where it was a shorter answer, but much more insights into terms of the search.
Yep.
Quite good, I would say, in some regards.
I think it's
What about you?
It suffers a little bit, and we'll do an example. It suffers a little bit, I think, from the same thing that Perplexity does, is sometimes the date relevance is a little bit off. Like it might provide, I think we've had this in the past where we were looking at some stuff live, and the results were coming back from things from like 2019, even though we wanted stuff from the last couple of weeks.
And even if you said that, like, please make it only like blah, blah, blah stuff from here. I did one where I was helping out some other colleagues with some search that they're doing. And I said, only make results from the UK, for example, right? I only want results from the United Kingdom. And it was coming up with most from the United Kingdom, but then some stuff from Australia, because in that Australian article, it mentions United Kingdom in relation to this particular topic. So it can get confused. It's a whole metadata thing. And it's people, you got to understand this. Like, this is not foolproof. But hey, look at this. It's getting you something here. I don't know how long it would have taken me to find 20 sources and summarize those. God, like I have no idea that if I could do that as quick as this. Like I know there is no way. So there is an efficiency gain. You just have to take sometimes that, it's going to have some bad ones. You just got to check it. Anyway.
100%. Check it is good. So let's have a play with it. So I've got Perplexity. I want to do a comparison. Perplexity. I've got OpenAI, ChatGPT here, and I've got Google as well. Obviously, the reigning champion of the world, the OG. And I do find myself still going back to Google for that sort of generic finding of searches. But for when it comes to summary, I definitely pop it into these other tools. What should we start? Like something that's happened recently. Let's talk about Apple. They did their a second round. 18.2 iOS just came out for mobile devices, which comes with more AI updates.
Google phone here, folks.
Yeah, so I'm a Google user as well. I'm S24 Ultra. Can't get away from it. So let's go latest iPhone release and news about AI. About its AI features. Let's go. Yeah, it's AI features.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah, we could copy that.
And let's run it in this one.
So got Pro Mode active. I'll send this guy. Let's see how long it takes. One. So it's still thinking.
Oh my God, it's so slow, folks. No, I'm just joking. For those that are listening in, AI is just so much faster now. I was looking up news. It's found 10 articles this time, and it's giving its summarized answer. If you've never used Perplexity before, it's like Google search in reverse. Where
that was about...
Yeah,
it was like 16 seconds. So it's come up with, let's see what some of these sources. Apple introduces iPhone, AI 16. Like, how recent is this? This is directly from the Apple's website.
Yep.
Let's see, this is
10th of
September. So it's a little bit old. Didn't come out didn't tell us about the latest stuff that just came out.
It's only 2 months and it's old for Chris. Like, if you're doing new products for Chris, folks, make sure that it's on the day.
Well, it's just because like the updates, the 18.2 has literally been in the last week or so. So I was seeing if they would let's see some of the other articles they come up with. Macworld. So what's the interesting thing here, it doesn't show you dates of the articles or relevance. So you have to actually click in. September 20 here, it does say it debuted. So. Okay. So yeah, so it does pretty good job. So you could do a bit of research.
I saw some at the bottom there. There was an 18.2 mentioned.
18.2, there we go. iOS 8.2 beta is now live. Here's what's new. Let's have a look at that.
Yeah, so that'd be recent because there you go, 5 hours ago. Hopefully that's good enough for you, Chris.
That's better.
If you're watching at home or if you're listening in, just realize, folks, that there is a high bar.
And like, let's think about the search that I did put in was pretty broad. So it's looking at the news and most popular news and pulling out what has had the most hits, which is obviously going to be the older articles.
Let's go to ChatGPT.
Let's go check out ChatGPT and close this up.
All right, exactly the same search.
Make sure you got to hit the extra button. Obviously,
you got to click the button so we know that we're searching the web. Yeah, the interesting thing though is that, and here we go, very fast, the answer. We're not going to see the sources until the end. So shorter response, there's some details on it there. Click on the sources. Let's have a look at that.
So that was a lot quicker if you said, oh, mine's popped up in an overlay.
So citations, yeah, it's interesting. Yours, it pops up as a modal, a pop-up. For me, it pops up on the side. So
I've had it on the side as well. I'm not sure.
I've always had it on the side.
So that's interesting. Okay, cool.
Wow.
So yes, September 9th. So similar articles, actually. If we look
Yeah.
at it here, Phone Arena, Apple support, interesting one.
Yep.
More recent, iPhone 16.
You go to the
camera.
search results, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, let's just say there's a lot more,
So
nearly 20.
I pulled a lot more sources. So
But
less
citations
of a
is-
summary, less of a citations, but it does interestingly put references in its links, which as you saw here, Perplexity does do the same thing with all the summaries,
If
which
you
is
go back
great.
to the ChatGPT one, it's got the so citations, when you click on the sources, are the citations that you actually see in the results. So it did a
100%.
vast search on nearly 20, but it only gets citations from a few that it thinks are important.
Exactly right.
It would be great, right? Like, this is great that they've got search, but there's no ability for you to filter in. And maybe it is something that, this is just through the chat function. The API is really the most powerful thing that OpenAI have. ChatGPT is just like a baseline kind of like app. It's what you do with the underlying model. If the search GPT has ability to provide nuance into how it does its search, so it can do search exactly like how you as a company researcher, how you as a consultant or analyst, that would be quite powerful, because you get limited kind of interactivity with this one.
Very much so. I think it's that consideration is a massive one. But if you think about some of the other advancement here, it was significantly faster than Perplexity in its results. But it did pull in less of a summary because of it. I think we're about 15 seconds then for Perplexity. ChatGPT did it at about less than 10.
But even then, like I said before, like with some of the other stuff that I've been searching, maybe like the searches that we've just done today, folks, have been quite just general. When I've done really nuanced search, I've found that sometimes, or for the time I've been doing it just this week, ChatGPT has had vastly more powerful and lengthier and detailed responses than Perplexity. And I can go back and forth a lot easily. I can have proper conversations with the data with ChatGPT. With Perplexity, it's a bit hit and miss. If you try to continue the conversation, it's more there for search. But in any case...
And that's the difference between its model, particularly with 4.0, backing how ChatGPT works, as opposed to Perplexity with its own sort of not as complex LLM style modeling.
And now we're going to go into something, folks, that remember when there were these things called books? There was also a time of a world where you had something called Google search.
Now,
and,
like you can see instantly the difference there was the speed. That was instantaneous in that search result. But don't get the summaries. I don't have Gemini active like many other people would do. I do have it on my personal system, but not on this one, unfortunately. But that was instantaneous. But what I'm not getting is that in-depth summary right off the bat like I would with the other tools, unless you have Gemini, if you're paying that $16 a month for it.
It's instantaneous, but you have to do the work.
But now I have to do the work. Exactly right.
What's fascinating
But with Gemini, though, you would have still a bit more of a summary piece, and you have the ability to expand that out. And Gemini is significantly quicker on that summary part, but you can't interrogate it, right? You can't within the search result, you can't interrogate it like you can with the others.
There's so many things to this, but just on that note, it does come up so much quicker, but it's just going back to that world where you have just normal. You have to do the search yourself and stuff, rather than you getting the summary. And the only thing is that's there is that you have to trust that this is the right summary these things are doing. So it's a probability model. It's predictive. This is what it's like going into in terms of what it thinks the summary should be about. Whereas if you do it, you have to drive it. But the interesting thing, I think, as well, is that there's that trade-off, right? Just because now it takes 16 seconds or 20 seconds, I mean, it's showing it on screen at the same time. And before, we were racing into this world where how fast can it get? Before, like, if you look back at the first GPT, before even 3.5 Turbo, it was just GPT-3 that was like out on screens for ChatGPT. And obviously the models were there before that, but only available via API. But it was slower than what we have today. And people were racing towards how fast can we get it? And because O1 came out with that model, so OpenAI came out with a model O1 that does thinking, people are now actually going, oh, wait, I actually wanted to think more. Why did it only think for 16 seconds? I get much more of a higher quality response. And I'm saying this because what I find interesting is that until that happened from a major player, we were doing things where it's doing thinking in the background, and yeah, it's taking 30 seconds, it's taking 20 seconds. But because it's doing these kind of processes, people were like, oh, well, how can we get that faster? And then it's not until like OpenAI comes out with its thinking model, people are now used to having something just do a lot of thinking underneath. Like they're happy to wait if they get a better quality response. I think that's actually interesting. Even if you're building and stuff, like how the public can be swayed and stuff like that. So in any case, what do you want to add to next?
So, I mean, in line with that, we had OpenAI just updated their application. I don't know if you ever use the app on your desktop. I just quickly installed it then. I do have it on my other system, but not on this one. And I just actually ran the same query through the system, and it actually gave me a much more in-depth response just then. As compared to what I did when I was on the desktop. And I don't know whether it's because it's learned from what I just did and knows it's probably listening to us and going.
Probably.
And the sources, again, similar thing as its overlay.
Oh.
Whoop, accidentally clicked on someone there. But with the app, which you don't get on browser now, is they've added in advanced
Hello.
listening. There we go. All right, let's activate that. Oh, the mic is turned
Hello.
off. There we
Is
go.
it working? Was it? Okay, allow it. I mean, we got to talk to this thing.
Yeah, of course.
Is it working? Hello. Hey, AI. Are you there? We can't even hear it.
Oh, why can't we hear it? Oh, have we muted the television?
No?
Oh.
Haven't touched it. My stuff
going
was
on?
playing before. Like it's definitely on your machine, Chris.
Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Let's try that again.
Trying again. There we go. We can hear it now. Hey, how's it going?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? What's up?
Pretty good. We're doing a podcast for something called the Digital Nexus podcast, and we're talking about your latest updates and the desktop mode that you've got. I'm here with Chris. Thinking.
That's awesome. Hey to you and Chris! The Digital Nexus podcast sounds like a perfect place to dive into AI updates. And yeah, desktop mode is a big step. It really opens up a new level of flexibility for deep dives, research, or just getting hands-on with topics in a more expansive way. What angle are you guys planning to take on it? Are you focusing on how desktop mode changes user experience?
Oh, interesting. It's not
or are you
advanced.
looking at broader implications
I think
for
it might
AI?
be. I think
Because
it's
advanced, you're supposed
yeah.
to be able to stop it.
I think it just didn't pick up your audio because of the angle that you're in.
Try saying something. Okay, so you do something, Chris. Chris has got something to say.
We're really interested in trying to get our hands on.
All right, sounds like you're troubleshooting the setup.
Okay,
a bit.
can you pause for a second?
Go ahead, Chris.
Stop.
No,
Let's
it's-
hear what you've
no,
got
it
to
doesn't
say.
have the stop.
I'm ready.
It's not advanced.
Oh, there we go. It stopped then. It just seems to be a bit of a lag in the experience. And actually, I experienced the same thing when I was testing at home.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be as reactive as the mobile version of the tool. But it's
okay.
interesting. It's cool that it's there. And, they're only going to keep improving.
But on that note, folks, like if you're not playing around with like these tools, like just say you're driving and you have it like connected to your car and stuff. Sometimes like I will just like have a chat with it, and especially with the advanced one, you don't have to touch the phone in the cradle as much anymore. You can just press it and you have a conversation back and forth because it recognizes the stops and whatnot, and you can just ideate on things or just learn things. For example, like
Love that.
I wish I was a kid and learning about history, and like I'd probably be wanting to play video games really, like as an older guy. Like I started getting into more like history kind of stuff, and documentaries, but fascinating kind of tools. Anyway, what's next?
On that note, we did test out the Apple Intelligence. So for our Apple users out there, new updates for your phone's system-wide writing tools, updates to the image engine. Now you've got iOS, the actual your M2s and M3s and below getting AI updates into their systems.
Fantastic.
New Mac Mini releases have been announced. And a myriad of more updates. So for all the Apple users out there, get on it. There's a lot of really cool things that have been released. Obviously not the full-fledged of AI tools that Apple was, promoting during their initial promotions of the 16 release. But, 18.2 comes with a lot of really exciting updates. Meta has an interesting thing that's come out. Obviously, they are playing in the open source battlefield of AI, and they've just released a open version of, I guess, Google Podcast Generator. I haven't personally had a chance to play with this. It takes a bit of effort to use. It's not something that you can just turn on your browser and start to. This is actually a downloadable piece of technology you have run locally on your system, and essentially very, very similar to Google's LM podcasting tool. You can actually run that locally on your system now. So for users who have obviously security concerns, and don't want to be sharing data out there with their AI tools, running a local version of this podcast generator tool really helps you, provide that security benefits that you want.
And even like with Google's Notebook LM, the OG of the awesome, well, they're not really the OG.
And they're still starting that as better. So OG and still better, but
no. What I was saying was like, I haven't played around with that, so I don't know if it's better, but I was just correcting myself on saying OG, because ADD folks means that as soon as words come out of your mouth as well, at least for me, I'm already thinking about the things that are maybe wrong with it. In any case, I can see people picking up on like the whole, hey, he's saying OG, but there's all this other stuff. And there were definitely other podcast type tools using generative AI to come out there. It's just that Google, I think they're the OG because they're the ones that really took it to that next hemisphere by making it sound so realistic. They came out with an upgrade to the original tool that they provided, which was that you can actually give context to what it is. So it not only reads the documents, the YouTube video, the website, or notes of what you put in there and turns it into something, even if those notes are nothing more than what I did, which was McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and a Pizza Hut, even if it's just that for pages and pages, and it reasons with it. But you can actually give the AI podcasters a persona. Like I did one where I'm going to give you notes. I'm preparing for a podcast. I want you to talk to just me. I'm the only, listener of this. And it did that. And it spoke to me about my notes. And it told me about what was good, what was interesting, what I should focus on. What the heck, right? And it's great to see that from Meta. And so great to see that they're doing all this open source stuff. Now, the question mark there is that maybe this is for another episode, but like if they're giving this stuff away for free, where's the take and stuff? But in any case,
I think it's awareness.
Could be Trojan horse.
It'd be awareness on their broader products that they are releasing. I mean, we think about with the their glasses, their AR, VR tools that they're coming out with. Like it's putting huge awareness on those things. It
is pretty crazy and stuff. What's out there? What do you got on screen now?
This is a pretty cool tool. This is Recraft. So I think this has been pushed out. This has been promoted in the market as a coming out tool for a while, called Panda. And essentially it's an image generator tool, and it's pretty awesome. It does a pretty good job. I thought I'd jump in and just show you a few fun things around what you can do in it. I won't spend too much time creating my own things, but so essentially it's you're in a canvas, you're able to generate images. So
dude, this looks
almost
like
photorealistic images. So this is this is the example that the tool provides you to show you how to use it.
Miro or Figma or something.
It's kind of like a little Miro Figma canvas board that you can generate your images in. You can then even add specific color palettes to it, which does predict. It can make some assumptions for it, or you can customize and build your own. You can then upscale the image. You can expand out the width. So
if people aren't seeing this online, if you're watching listening on the podcast, if you can watch on the podcast, I'd be amazed. Anyway, there is some fantastic photorealistic images and stuff here. When you had that other one before where you can change the style, that's always been a huge problem of like these tools. You can like brush over, and that was a new feature, brush over to change things in the image, but the overall style, you had to redo something from scratch.
Exactly.
And now you can actually restyle and stuff.
So I've put in a picture of a soldier riding on a pony, and there it is. It generated that image, and I'm like, okay, cool. I want to do some customizations to it. So I want to change the ratio, make it like 4:3. I want
This
to.
is nuts.
I want to change the color palette a bit.
Yep.
I'm not happy with this one. Let's
This is
roll the
like-
dice for some more palettes.
This
Let's
is the
change it
kind
to
of
this
stuff
color.
that you wish that you had. Like
Like a
I
Recraft.
was doing projects with Midjourney before, and it was just back and forth, tweaking the words just to get a somewhat okay kind of like output. We were doing
Exactly.
some NFTs. And yeah, look at this. Like you
There
could
goes
go
regenerated
to
with a new
town.
bit of a color scheme to it. Realistic is the request there.
So many more features on screen here, folks, that you can actually play around with.
Yeah.
This is now blending. You know what it is? This is like bringing the traditional world of like we're used to tools where you tell it to do something and there's all these features and you have to tweak things. It's bringing that with the AI kind of stuff in mind, with generative AI in mind. So it's a good
Exactly.
mix. I do wonder like how do these guys compare then to what you can do with Adobe, and like they were doing a whole lot with Photoshop and stuff.
And I'm
early
looking
on.
forward to seeing those more advanced Adobe, particularly in the video creation space where that actually does the fill between frames. Like
Yeah.
that is I'm pretty excited.
Oh
to see
yeah,
once that
exactly.
comes out.
Like you saw that one where it's like you know maybe just draw an arrow or whatever for the thing, the character or whatever, and it runs off in that direction. Like there's crazy stuff. If you're a
Or even
creator,
they create like the first frame,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh, I want to actually see what the character looks like
Yeah.
from this angle," and they're actually able to click it, and it generates the different angle.
move.
And you can actually spin it around.
That's so
Oh, it
crazy.
was insane.
But for artists and people, yes, I know that there is a big thing on copyright and stuff like that. But to ignore how useful and how easy it is for these tools would be crazy. Like we were talking about Suno before. There is artists that are actually embracing it. Timbaland, for all my 90s, 2000s heads, the great producer and stuff, is lending his beats and his music into Suno for people to use. Artists are starting to embrace it.
Awesome.
Elon Musk's ex, I forget her, Grimes. Grimes was very early on in having her music like just be made available for the AI to be used. So crazy stuff out there.
So I want to show some other uses for this. So you can actually create
ahead.
mock-ups for things. So you can upload your own images, or create your own images, even in that sense, with like plain shirts, and then
Yep.
drop in certain designs, and then ask it to layer those designs across
Oh my
the
gosh.
images.
And it looks so realistic. Like
And-
it even bends the shirt so that the design on the shirt so that it actually looks like it's part of the shirt rather than just copied and pasted on.
Exactly right. Okay, so some other really cool, powerful things I love is like you can actually do vector generation, removal of backgrounds,
Oh,
like you can do in
interesting.
other assets. So you can actually create really useful tools as well. So here are some examples
Oh my
of
gosh.
vector images. So you can take those, download those,
Yeah.
and use them in your other designs. Whether you're creating websites and need some, iconography.
This is crazy. You
or-
don't have to just like, for some people, they only just download what's available or pay for something to actually make icons.
Yeah,
and stuff
and usually
for
high
their app.
costs. Like this is you're paying your normal subscription.
That's nuts.
I think let's have a look at what the costs are for this. Obviously, I'm in the free version.
$10
right now.
for
But like
basic.
for $10 for the basic one, which obviously gives you a limited
1,000 credits.
27 per month. I mean, if you're someone who's full time creating content and imagery
You
and
would
websites,
pay that.
it's such a low cost to be able to utilize and create some really really fun and interesting designs
Agreed.
for whatever it is you're doing.
That is nuts.
Last one on my boat on
Yep.
just on the topic of Suno, you did mention that some of these large creators are sharing stuff
Yep.
out. But what a recent update that they've done, which I thought was really really cool now, is the ability to create what they're calling personas across the different across your assets. So essentially, you could create, you could generate some kind of nice song. If there is a mood or a style that you like, you can create a persona for that particular mood or style, and then carry that over into your other creations. So previously, if you were
Crazy.
you were typing, it was up to how you wrote that generated
Yeah.
that sort of context or that
Yep.
that mood and that tone for the image.
Yep.
And it was very
the
difficult to
music.
then replicate. Sorry, that for music, and it was very difficult to replicate that across other songs without
Yeah.
a lot of tinkering.
You
So
had to
now-
like copy and paste that into the new song, and sometimes
And
it
even
would
then
just be
it just-
completely different.
Yeah, just like trying to get OpenAI to generate an image and then trying to get that similar context in the
Yeah,
next image.
that
it was always a high effort.
fine-tuning very
Fine-tuning,
hard. with
Very
that.
tight.
Just like the early image tools, it was fine-tuning was hard.
Exactly
but
right.
like you showed that now fine-tuning is getting
It's super
easier.
easy. And so same thing with Suno now. With
Wow.
the personas, you could create these similar moods and tones across all of the different songs that you generate. So yeah, pretty cool update for that one.
Definitely going to play around with that. And if you didn't know, like the music from this show, the podcast is, the intro is from Suno.
Yes.
I'm going to leave you off with a couple of cool posts from Ethan Mollick. If you're not listening to him listening, watching, reading, having the AI, create summaries of his research and stuff. He is at the Wharton School. This one here is a post where he talks about, he says, we are just not used to abundant intelligence of a sort, which leads people to miss a huge value of AI. So don't ask for an idea, ask for 30. Don't ask for a suggestion or how to end a sentence. Ask for 20 in different styles. Don't ask for advice, ask for strategies. Pick and modify as needed. Taste and curation are valuable skills. So he's talking about taking the AI further than just going, hey, can you fix up this email for me? No, do so much more. Give it a scenario and tell it, I am doing this task. These are the things that I have to do. Here is the goals and stuff I'm trying to get to. Here are some things I'm thinking of. What do you think about what I've just said? And what else could you add? And it will come up with stuff where you're like mind blown. I didn't even think of that. And I've been using it for so much kind of strategy stuff for work. Even where you take an image of, like when I was rebuilding the ETF tracker website, which is still kind of like a work in progress. I've just had to park for a bit. I am able to do things in there that I could never do as easily in Power BI. I am also getting it to go, here is what I've got so far. How would you look at this design? And it's what helped me improve the design. And even to the point where I'm like, here are these features. What else would you add? And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I could do that. And then if I wasn't sure, before the limit was you knew how a tool worked and you're limited by going, well, okay, I know the tool doesn't do that. Now, like with what I'm doing here, I go, not just within the tool, but because I'm building from scratch, right? Yep. I'm using like open source tools and language frameworks and TypeScript, JavaScript, etc. to build something. I can just go, is this kind of thing possible? Could you do this? I haven't played around with the animation stuff yet,
but
I'm going to do that next. It is freaking crazy, folks. So Ethan is pushing for that. And then the last thing from him, before I get to my final piece, is that he's got this research out here that he's shared. It's a big study of 187,000 developers that were using GitHub Copilot and how AI transforms how they work, right? Coders can focus, they can do more coding and less management, which is great. Definitely a lot more coding and less documentation that they have to worry about at the end. Arturo loves it because this thing can just document a whole lot of stuff for him. And then he was using that early on when AI came out to question, like he'd read the documentation and see if it made sense. And what it would mean is that if the documentation that was spat out from the code that he got was a bit weird, it just meant that he needed to explain things like better in the code, right? Like it led to improvements. It's led to improvements for me as well in my projects. And so really great research and insights, a whole lot of graphs in this one. So check that out from Ethan Mollick. And the final piece from me that you see on screen here is this episode of a podcast from Bill Gates called Unconfuse Me. He's got Sam Altman as his guest on here. And what was really interesting is that Sam's talking past the whole, everyone's talking about AGI and when we're going to get to it. This is like, okay, we're going to get to that. What happens next? And he's talking about, and it's great insights here, the things that we could see, like you could just tell the AI, okay, I actually want you to spin up a company and I want it to do this. Or I want you to do this piece of research, go. And it will just go off and do it. And it will be far more creative, reliable. And there's been there's been agentic workflow out there, but it's been hit and miss. And a lot of the demos only show the good sides, not the downsides, right? He's saying that we get to that world where you can just leave it be and the AI will do something. Now, it opens up a whole can of worms. And if you want to dive into more of that kind of stuff, watch our last episode.
Sounds good.
That's it from me, man.
Love it. Great episode. Next week, what we're going to probably dive into is a little bit more on comparison for our coding tools. I really want to dive into Bolt and some of their new latest updates. I wanted to compare that to Claude and how it's able to generate, particularly in its prototyping. I've been having a lot of fun playing around with the prototyping aspects of both of these tools and how it can advance your thinking. So I'd love to do a bit of comparison around that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we'll keep you updated on the latest news. Signing out.
See you there, folks. Bye.
Circuit board buzzing, worldwide, tech trends blazing, digital fire, AI, rising to the sky, digital